All right, it's 3:47. I'm going to go ahead and get started in just another minute or so. Uh, I'm assuming that everyone can hear me. I will go and check the status in the peanut gallery. All right, we're a go. Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to the DLIS ePortfolio webinar for spring 2020. My name is Michael Crossfox. I'm going to guide you through the wonderland of end of program assessment for the MS-LIS at St. John's University. All right, so this title of this presentation is How to Fail the DLIS ePortfolio. After a number of years giving this talk twice a year, I decided that the best way to approach this is to give you a comprehensive understanding of what it takes to fail the DLIS ePortfolio, and that is an option. It is a pass-fail grade. Only 3 people in the past 6 years have failed, and I'll talk about that. So what does a fail look like, how to fail, what reviewer feedback on failed ePortfolios look like, and then we'll reach a conclusion and have a brief discussion where I'll show you some example ePortfolios from last year and also walk you through a brief introduction to Digication itself, the platform that we use to build our ePortfolio. So this is what a fail looks like. You'll see the red grade is a pass, the yellow grade is a mixed pass, and the green grade is a fail. What happens at the ePortfolio is that it's reviewed by 2 full-time faculty members, and if their score is mixed in that it's not passing or there's a discrepancy, Dr. Vorbach, our director, will pull in a third reviewer who's also full-time faculty. So you can see in the green students' case, one reviewer gave them an 85, the other reviewer gave them almost a 70. That's a big enough bump. I think it has to be 10 points. And oh no, don't hold me to that. I just made that up. So there was a big enough discrepancy between a passing grade of 85 and a nearly failing grade of 69. So Dr. Singh gave a third assessment of 64.875, pulling down the total, the average to a fail grade. The yellow student had 79 and then a 91. So Dr. Vorbach came in and rounded it out at an 89 for a pass grade. So the review process is pretty straightforward. Your faculty have 30 days after the date of submission to review and bump it up through assessment. How's it done? Failing the ePortfolio in 3 easy steps. So the first one, ignore the guidelines, right? Just kind of blow something together and hope for the best. The guidelines are published on the campus guide ePortfolio page. And I'll switch, oh, there you are. This is the ePortfolio page, and you can see the portfolio guidelines are here on the left, and then there's the Digication Student Guide. These are videos and clips, media from Digication itself, training you on how to operate within the platform. And then the ePortfolio support documents are down here. I'll go into those in just a sec. So we start by ignoring the guidelines and just putting something together that you think is appropriate. We do not want to do that. The second way to fail the ePortfolio is to ignore the rubric and everything else, all of the other supporting documentation, and just, again, wing it. We don't want to wing it. We don't have a template, but you're free to create whatever you like and works for you, but definitely present all of the information as required in the rubric. And finally, wing it. Again, we have all of this information on the campus guide, so definitely browse that page at any point in your program. If you're new into the division, if this is your first or second semester, you want to start thinking about your ePortfolio now. Start reflecting on the assignments, the artifacts, start considering what work you want to present in your ePortfolio, and reflect on it while it's still fresh in your mind, the assignment and your motivation for completing the assignment the way you did, instead of trying to slap everything together in the first few weeks of your last semester. Once you fail the ePortfolio, You'll be called in to meet with Dr. Vorbach either virtually or in person on the Queen's campus, whatever's convenient. And he'll go over the reviewer feedback. He won't tell you the names of the reviewers, but he will go over their feedback and provide you with guidance on how to build a successful ePortfolio. And you will be invited to submit the ePortfolio in the next submission period. So if you failed your first attempt in the spring, you can submit again, in the summer. If you fail in the summer, you can submit in the fall, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody gets 2 shots at the ePortfolio. Like I said, we've never had anybody fail twice, so we haven't crossed that bridge yet in terms of policy and procedure, but it's pretty easy to pass this. This is all work that you've done before. All right, so this is some sample feedback from a student that failed. Again, I can only find 2 examples of students that have ever failed the ePortfolio on their first attempt. So as you can see the highlight, they don't relate the artifacts back to the DLIS program goals. The descriptive and reflective statement does not follow the rubric, does not include an explanation of how the artifact relates to the program goal. It would have been much better if the student had followed the instructions outlined in the rubric. The next column, they should align their chosen artifacts with the corresponding program goals. Need to provide a coherent and reflective assessment of various artifacts and how they are related to the program goals. Submitted a paper on intellectual freedom rather than a professional philosophy. So that's a little bit nitpicky, but we see the theme. One sure way to fail your ePortfolio is to present work without demonstrating a connection between that assignment and the program goal that it's supposed to correspond to. This second student, the ePortfolio contains typos, citation irregularities, and grammar and spelling errors. In general, the writing is vague and unorganized. The resume has numerous consistency and formatting errors. Second comment, student does not link their artifacts back to the program goals, which is a major requirement. All right, so you can tell by the repetitive nature of these comments that the assessors, your reviewers, the faculty are a little bit annoyed at this lack of cognitive connection between the artifact and the program goal. So we definitely want to make those connections. And like I said earlier, the easiest way to do that is to get a jump on it as soon as you get the assignment back. Start thinking about it in the context of your ePortfolio and the 8 program goals as laid out in the documents that I'm going to review with you in just a moment. So what do we do to not fail? Number 1, link it to the program goals. Number 2, make sure that your reflections and descriptions are correct, and use the DLIS LibGuide, for heaven's sake. The ePortfolio page has the guidelines, the elements, our goals and outcomes, the curriculum map, and the ePortfolio rubric. They're all there on the campus guide, LibGuide. So by all means, access those and review those as you start to build your ePortfolio. Write your artifact description upon completion of the course assignment or project. Write your artifact reflection upon return of the course assignment project to you. Use the curriculum map to identify courses to source artifacts from. Use the artifact description to create and reinforce an overarching narrative for your ePortfolio, like the dissertation model, or make a connection between the artifact and the appropriate program goal. And finally, share your ePortfolio with a classmate and open discussion on it. This is a non-competitive assessment. You've all done this work. The work has already been done in your courses. You're writing new reflections and descriptions of the work. Show it to your classmates. Get feedback. Get a sense of what they're doing, how they're describing their artifacts. Don't plagiarize, obviously, but you can share input with one another. This should be a collaborative and cooperative process. You're all trying to get the same degree from the same place at the same time. Finally, double check, triple check everything. APA is the citation style unless your instructor specified citation, a different style for the assignment. Always cite yourself. Cite your professors if you're quoting from the syllabus. Mention the course your artifact is from at some point in the reflection. Compose your artifact description and reflection in your document editor of choice. Run spelling grammar checks, and then paste that text into your ePortfolio, so that, again, you have a backup copy of the reflection in case something happens to Digication or the internet goes away one day. You can always back it up. And pick a font size, etc. Make sure your formatting is uniform and consistent throughout the ePortfolio. This is a big part of the rubric, and I'll go through that in just a minute. Finally, we will not review your ePortfolio. Don't ask us to, please. Okay, I will, if you ask me, I will look at it, but I will look at formatting only. I will not review content. I will not edit, copy. I will look at the spacing and the font selection. and that's the only critique you're going to get from me. So don't even bother wasting everybody's time. Have your classmates look at it. So let's take a look at some examples here of people who have passed their ePortfolio. The first one, this is Nicolas Cabrera. He graduated last year in 2019. His front page here, you see he uses background images. He's got a picture of the cover of the book that he just published. He's in a constant state of plugging himself in real life. So he moves down to his professional philosophy. This is taken from LIS 204. The personal philosophy and professional philosophy that you generate in 204 should be a basis. You see, he put this out from 2017 for review in 2019. He had to expand on this. We want your professional development to develop, your professional philosophy to develop as you go through the program. So I don't know what the score was on this, but I definitely would have questioned the use of this document because it's not expanded on. This is a beginning of the program artifact. We need an end of program artifact in this standalone column of professional philosophy. This is what we want you to take out into the profession, not what you started with. Again, use the assignment in 204 as a basis and then reflect it and develop it out into something current. In this, he organized his program goals. He mistakenly used the term competency. We refer to them as program goals and objectives or outcomes. So that language is inconsistent with the rubric. He layered them here all under one menu, but each one has its own page. You can see a description of the course. He's got a little block quote, more background images. It's very beautiful. It's very fluid. But aside from style, we don't know what the content is. His resume as a standalone object within the ePortfolio. Again, I'll go through this in the rubric. It's pretty consistent, more images. He's a little bit of a photo bug. That's nice. It fleshes out, it gives it some personality and pizzazz. Finally, item number 5, library school spaghetti. This is so extra and unnecessary. This isn't your church bulletin or your family newsletter. Your reviewers don't want to see any ancillary information. They have to review 30 of these a semester twice. So your reviewers are looking at 20 to 40 ePortfolios. They shouldn't be distracted by library school spaghetti or other pictures of dogs and cats, of albums of your vacation. None of that belongs here unless it was part of the assignment in the original artifact. And finally, acknowledgments. I mean, he lists me as a mentor. That's kind of correct. I did save his life on a number of occasions, but the family picture, not really necessary. This is extra, extra, extra. The second example I want to show you is Richard Jones. He was a dual degree student and he completed his ePortfolio spring of 2019. Again, the main parts, main components, the bio, the resume, his professional philosophy, and then under my work, he chose a different style. So he's very sparse here. It's very text oriented, not a lot of extra pictures, not a lot of extra media on this, which is also fine. The work should speak for itself, as well as your reflections and descriptions. I probably would have sized this out or made the document actually fit the screen better. But this is his professional philosophy, not from 204. He wrote this at the end of his program, which is what we want to see. And finally, he organized all of his work on one linear page. So this is a little bit cumbersome, I think, because you have to scroll this that's the first program goal was foundations. The second program goal, information resources. Notice that his header is now indented. That's a formatting problem. All the way down to the third, all the way down. I mean, this page is probably 10 linear feet long. With all of this data on here, I would have done a job of chunking it out and splitting these onto separate pages to make navigation a little clearer and to just, again, the PDFs are shrunken and it really, your reviewers are not going to sit and read through the entire PDF, but it should be presented in a more user-friendly way. Finally, the third example, Kate Yelland, also spring 2019. Wonderful use of media, wonderful use of styling. Her bio is very brief. The picture is clear and professional. Her resume is also linear in education. This is not a PDF, it's not a document, it's loaded in as text, which is acceptable. And I think it presents in a very striking and clear way compared to the other resumes that we've seen. Her professional philosophy, at the end of my first semester, I wrote a professional philosophy paper for LIS 204. So we know that this is not the same document. So she's giving us a nice, clear professional philosophy broken up into segments that actually match our program goals in a way. So it's a very linear format. And then I love this that she included media that she has generated in her work as a librarian. And this is really cool to see the nexus, the connection between what she's done in library school on the right and what she's actually doing on as a professional on the left. And then finally, this wonderful statement about it being excited to join the field and become a practitioner and start her career. She divided her work into individual pages based on the program goals, and we see the description here on the left, the actual artifact on the right, and she keeps this format where then she brings us into a central column for her reflection and then includes supporting media all the way down the page. These are screenshots. This is a presentation that she gave, and then screenshots of the website that she worked on. So this is a really, I think, pretty an attractive ePortfolio. The design elements that she chose and the way that she laid it out is clear. The coloring is really nice. You would think that having that text visual background might be distracting, but she finds that she strikes a balance between text and void space, white space, or in this case, blue space throughout the page. So this is a high concept design, and I think she's put a lot of time and effort into this, and it's something that she should be proud of. And I congratulate Kate for presenting this wonderful ePortfolio at the end of her program. So let's go back into the LibGuide and talk about the documents that you need to support. So the program goals and outcomes are pretty transparent. These are going to be the section headers. These are going to be what you're linking your artifacts to. So they're all pretty clear. We have 8 goals. So you're going to be presenting a minimum of 8 artifacts in your ePortfolio, 1 for each of these goals. If you find 2 or 3 artifacts, you can incorporate them. You only need to put a reflection of all of them. So you're only making 1 reflection and 1 a description for each goal. So you just want to keep it tight. When I go through the rubric, I'll clear up some confusion that we've had in the past. So the outcomes are here, the goals, everything is laid out in this document that's on the LibGuide. The curriculum map, crosswalks, oh, I sound like Dr. Angel. Crosswalks, the program goals to our actual courses. So you'll see the left-hand column is the course number, the next column is the course name, and then these are the program goals that this faculty member who teaches that course and wrote the syllabus, these are the program goals they identify are satisfied by work in the course. So you can, hello?
Hi, Michael, we can't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Thank you for telling me. I have to select. Okay. There we go. That should be clear now. Sorry. All I did was I went through the program goals document that's on the LibGuide, and now I'm just looking at the program, the curriculum map. And again, you'll see these are the program goals and outcomes. So essentially, this course here satisfies 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. So any artifact from this course would satisfy that. But again, you're already going to be using 1 artifact from this course, your professional philosophy, as a foundation for what you're going to present on in the ePortfolio. Now, the ePortfolio rubric, this can be a little bit confusing, so just pay attention to this. I always start with the satisfactory. I know a lot of people like to jump immediately to excellent, but I think you have to crawl before you can walk. So a satisfactory criteria, these are the criteria: the selection of artifacts, the description, the reflection, your professional philosophy and bio, your resume, and overall design of the ePortfolio. Okay, so it's 7 criteria, and you're going to be graded. The reviewers give a score of unsatisfactory, satisfactory, or excellent. So it's exactly this rubric. Then through the magic of Microsoft Excel, a numerical value is ascribed to each of those terms, and a total score is calculated by the grading sheet, and that determines pass or fail. So it's all mathematical, very scientific. Dr. Vorbach is a wizard in Excel, so he wrote this essentially program that lets the reviewers score your content. So selection of artifacts. All artifacts selected for inclusion within the ePortfolio relate to each of the 8 DLIS program goals. That's it. That's the statement right there. Relates to each of the program goals. Artifact, relation, program goal. A minimum of 8 different artifacts are used within the program goals section of the ePortfolio. A wide variety of media types are not included. If you want to bump your score up to excellent, a wide variety of media types are included. We want to see, if you have video, we want to see video. If you have images, we want to see images. If you have, PDFs are going to be loaded up in there, but anything you have, if you have an audio clip, if you did a podcast, whatever, include those artifacts in support of your main artifact. The description. All descriptions include an explanation of how the artifact relates to the particular program goal. Again, make the connection. I can't stress it enough. You saw how many times the reviewers repeated that was lacking in a failed ePortfolio. Keep making that connection. Connect one artifact to another artifact in your ePortfolio. Make connections. This should look like a lattice work of logical connections between the program goals and the work that you've done. You're working towards a master's degree in library and information science. We want to see mastery of these concepts, mastery of these goals, mastery of these outcomes in your ePortfolio. The reflection, the analysis is clear and presents a contemplation of how to plan and do things differently with regard to the specific program goals, and answers to the question, what is next? And an answers to the question, what will I do to improve my future practice? These are speculative questions. You want to give evidence. Maybe something didn't work out. Maybe you got a lower grade. I would love for people to put failing papers into these ePortfolios and then reflect on how you would have done it better and gotten a better grade. I mean, this is your opportunity. Again, the narrative, you're establishing a narrative for your experience in the program and ultimately making an argument that justifies the university giving you a diploma. And that's done in your reflection and the way you organize your ePortfolio as a whole. Your professional philosophy. Displays an understanding of the professional role of the information specialist. You're going to talk about best practices. You want to exhibit knowledge and understanding that you've acquired in the program. So again, you start with your 204 assignment and then build it out into a paper. And you just 250, 300 words. It's all we're looking for here. And then reflect on how you intend to grow as an information professional over the next few years. One of the program goals is lifelong learning. So you can start that narrative in your professional philosophy and run with it. What professional development opportunities have you seen while you've been in the department? What are offered at maybe the institution you're working at? And what kind of opportunities would you like to see down the road? And how would you explore and find those? That's all good content for your professional philosophy. Your bio must include a professional photograph and a cover letter. So just a description of yourself up until now, and the same cover letter that you would use with the resume that you're pinning into your ePortfolio. So just make sure that everything is consistent. Your job titles are consistent. Any goals, any associations you're part of, make sure that everything is consistent throughout these documents, because they may not be sitting next to each other in the ePortfolio, but they're definitely related in terms of the context. Your resume should include your educational background, professional work experience, yada, yada, yada. We know what a resume looks like. Just make sure to check some guides, look online, look at Indeed and some other sites. Ask career services, university career services to review your resume. You have lots of resources. Just make sure that your styling is consistent and that your format and your spelling is correct. Okay. Overall design, the ePortfolio is generally easy to read. The navigation is somewhat intuitive. We want to make sure that color, background, font styles, and type size for headings, subheadings, and text are generally used consistently throughout the ePortfolio. And the layout organizes the content well on most pages. We want to make sure that everything is organized correctly. That's part of what our job is in the field. And we may want to think about if you've taken diverse populations, you may want to think about accessibility issues with the ePortfolio and your color selection. If you go the extra mile of considering accessibility and how your ePortfolio can be read by people with different abilities, mention that in your professional philosophy statement. Say, I went through the trouble of learning about this and implementing it, and that will get you some brownie points with your reviewers because that's the level of cognition that we want to see, that you're bringing a practice to your ePortfolio. And the professional philosophy is a great place to insert that information and say that you made deliberate choices in the design and execution of your ePortfolio. So, what does the ePortfolio look like? If you haven't been into Digication yet, we're going to take a look now. Here is my SJU, my spotlight page. I'm going to click the Digication link at the top of the page, and we land on my my Digication dashboard here. You can see the left-hand navigation bar has my profile, my home, my peeps, my courses, my ePortfolios, my subscriptions, all of that jazz there. And I've built some ePortfolios over the years, so I'll just quickly get one going here. So to start an ePortfolio, we're going to click the plus button, and this takes us to the create your ePortfolio. We're going to create from scratch. I've never even seen the student template, but we don't use a template because this is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to call this my ePortfolio 2020. You want to give a functional title, so let's call it my last name, the degree I'm going for, and the year. And this way we get this concise little URL here, crossfox-ms-las-2020. We can edit that later. And we'll hit the blue create button down at the bottom of the screen. This may take a little while. It doesn't really. I'm using Firefox as my browser. This should run well on Firefox and I think Chrome. I don't know if Internet Explorer or whatever the new thing is. Also, I haven't heard any problems from people using Safari. So this is what my content looks like. I add a title up here. Oh, I have to unlock it. See, it's locked. I have to unlock it. Now I can go in and edit. And this is my, this will be my navigation menu, so I can click the edit button here. And it's from this that we add new pages. So you see the home page, we're gonna change the name in a second. The pages, the foundation of pages that I wanna add are, well, hold on, we're gonna call this resume. And we'll add a new page and call that one goal one, etc., etc. And what was the other thing? Oh, my professional philosophy. And I'm going to add another one, and we're just going to call that one goal 2. Oh, goal 2. And we'll call this one artifacts, because I'm going to show you the menu structure here. So these are my pages. When I hit save, it's going to populate my navigation bar up here. So let's go back into edit this, and this is, we're editing now at the page level. And we can reorganize the way they appear in the menu, with their placement in the menu. And we can even sub. You see, I just slid this page over to the right, and now it's a sub page under goal 2. So this navigation menu, you can load it up and then tweak it as you go through. You'll see that the changes are reflected in the navigation bar that is present on all of the pages in your ePortfolio. I'm going to change the name home to bio because that's where my bio is going to live. Again, I have 8 artifacts and my professional philosophy, bio, and resume. So I want this navigation bar to have 11 items in it at a minimum. If we did what Richard did, which is he put all of his artifacts on one page, so his menu just has the 4 sections. But we're gonna, you build it out as it depends on your style choices. And okay. So this is where we add content. So we can add here, we can add rich text where we're going to go in and code ourselves, or we can record a video, record an audio. We can include a table, we can upload a file, and we can also embed files in here. So I would probably want to embed a file. Oh no, that's to embed video, sorry. We're gonna upload file. Select files to upload, and we're just gonna put in my demo file here. Upload processing, and ta-da, we've got my PDF in an embedded native PDF viewer. And when we tweak this, we can hit the settings button here, and we can operate the gallery settings by controlling background color, opacity, document settings. We can display the file, we can display the download URL, and here we go. We scale it. We want to be page fit, we want to be actual size, et cetera, et cetera. So once you get into the nitty gritty exploring how to build out your ePortfolio, it's pretty apparent. It's pretty easy, self-evident here. So once I've got my artifact loaded in, I hit the plus button to create another section, and I'm going to create a text box. And this is where I would paste in my reflection, my description, and my citation. And you just use these two modules and repeat the process down the ribbon, adding to your pages as you go along. And so that's my bio page done. Let's get in here. We can change the section name if we have different sections. That's probably what Richard did on his. Uh, we have here the ability to layer our background. So this is where top layer background, we're going to select our image, bottom layer background. So the top layer, I guess, is up here. It's the region at the top of the page, and the bottom layer background is the rest of the page below the navigation menu. You'll mess around with this experiment and find your style, find your images. You know, we're in an age where we want to see kind of high quality images if you're going to use any. So make sure that your resolutions are correct. You should know by the end of your program how to manage media. If you're at the beginning of your program, you see how easy it is to go in here and create ePortfolios. You can create different versions, and then at the end, you'll just submit the one that works best for you and make sure that everything is completed. Now, the thing you have to remember is this up here at the top of the page. I've made all of these changes. I have to publish them. If I don't publish them, they're not going to be visible to the reviewers who go in to look at my ePortfolio. So everything has to be published, and it's set to private. You're going to review some of these settings. Do I want to show it in the directory? Do I want, and the directory is only accessible to users in St. John's University. And soon that's going to be, it's only available to students and alumni from DLIS. The university is sunsetting its overall license with education. So we'll be the only department using this. So it'll be semi-private, and you'll be able to manage your connection and how do you share your ePortfolio with prospective employers, or maybe you want to send a link to your Nana to show her what you're working on. I will tell you this, there is a little bit of pushback right now currently in the community here because we're the only online program in the New York metropolitan area that's using the ePortfolio. And so some alumni that I know who graduated from other institutions um, think it's kind of funny that they had to put together a 100-page thesis, and you all are putting together what I've heard someone refer to as a collage. So there will be some skepticism, but the point of this assessment, and this is approved by the American Library Association Committee on Accreditation, is because we need forward-facing, public-facing evidence that you've all mastered library and information science. And so this is an easy way. Pretty soon, as of 2015, the standards change for accreditation. Pretty soon, every LIS degree in the country will have an ePortfolio component. That's just the way it's going. So if you encounter people in the field who are a little bit skeptical or maybe even a little bit shady about your ePortfolio, just let them know that the industry changed and paper-based librarianship has gone the way of the dinosaur, and your skill set is relevant to the 22nd century while they're struggling to climb out of the 20th. So just, sell yourself. All right, so once my ePortfolio settings have been calibrated, I will hit Save Settings and Publish. And now I will be able to toggle between the edit mode that I'm in now. You see that the fields all react to my mouse over and give me options. I can switch over to the published view, and this is what my viewers will see. Now notice that the other pages that I added were not published, and so they don't appear on the menu. That's the first sign that something is amiss. See, they're here in edit. Once I go into these spaces and publish the changes, when I go out to publish, it's here, it's visible. So we have to remember to publish our changes. Uh, and then once your ePortfolio is submitted, your faculty will be able to see only what you have published in the version of the ePortfolio that you submit. So what does the submission process look like? Let's take a look at what happened in the spring. So you're already, no, not all of you. Students graduating spring of 2020 are already in the assessment group in Digication, and this is the old back-end Digication. This is probably going to change in the next year or next few months probably. And you see the assignments, DLIS ePortfolio Spring 2019. Once a student has submitted their ePortfolio, I get a C that says completed. If they haven't submitted, I get an S that says waiting for student. These two students submitted subsequently, but not during this submission period. And once you go into the assignment, you'll be prompted step one, my evidence. And here it's completed. This area would be where you add your ePortfolio information. You're going to tick which ePortfolio that you've created in Digication are you submitting. So be clear about your nomenclature, be clear about which version, if you're going to if you're versioning your ePortfolio, make sure that you want the one, that the correct one gets submitted here. So the way it happens is on the ePortfolio submission deadline date, April 15, 2020 is coming up. You have until 5 p.m. to submit your ePortfolio. Now, this was a student, very promising student, second career librarian, teacher, dedicated student, great graduate assistant here. She waited until 4:44 p.m. to submit her ePortfolio with a 5 p.m. deadline. Now, the reason it's 5 p.m. is because I'm still here in the office. If anything goes wrong during the submission process, I can go into Digication, back you out, and you can submit again. I've had people call me in tears saying I submitted a blank ePortfolio because I didn't publish all of my pages. I go in and undo that submission before 5 o'clock. After 5 o'clock, you're on your own. And if you haven't reached out to the director, if you haven't made strides to reach out to us about an emergency situation that prohibited you from submitting, we have to take it case by case and try to adjust our schedule to accommodate you. We want to get you out of here. We don't want you to hit this step and then lose the masters. We want to get you out. So by all means, if you're submitting for April 15, 2020, you can submit your ePortfolio tomorrow or today. It doesn't matter. Just don't miss that deadline, please, because then that creates problems that cascade throughout. And everybody else submitted on time, you can submit on time too. For the record, uh, the standing record for running jumping gall when it comes to submitting by 5 p.m. is 4:58. Okay, that person did it to me, and I see her at conferences now. She graduated. She's a professional working locally in the field. And whenever I see her at conferences, I want to wring her neck because that was one of the most stressful things that I had to deal with because she called me at 4:54 with a question, with a problem, and we got it resolved by 4:58. But that's the record right now for under the wire submitting your ePortfolio. So that was our discussion. Anybody, if you have any questions, I didn't mean to write too bad here. This is a negative tone ePortfolio presentation because it's how to fail. So if you have any questions, don't ask. That's another way to fail the ePortfolio. But overall, this is not rocket surgery. Just understand that you've already done a lot of the work, and what you're doing now is describing that work and reflecting on that work and putting it together in a very pretty collage, yes, but you're using web development skills and web building skills and graphic design skills that are highly transferable, and that's the overarching message of this exercise is you are showing your instructors and the world and the American Library Association that you have earned this degree and that you deserve to have it. So keep that in mind and adjust your narrative. If you have any questions at all, there's a lot of material to review on the ePortfolio page of the DLIS LibGuide. For instance, like I said, these are all Digication generated materials. So there's quick little guides and quick little videos that show you all of the steps that I just fumbled through. So review this material. You saw the interface. It's pretty clear. You've probably already dealt with some of the ePortfolio Digication tools, and I think Dr. Angel has incorporated them into 203 and 271 this semester. So don't be afraid. Just dive in. It's your work, your degree. Own it. All right, I'm going to open up to any questions. You can drop a question into a chat box or go ahead and unmute yourself if you have anything to say. All right. That being said, uh, our next webinar. Oh, hi. A question from Audrey. Do we need an artifact from every class? Uh, no, because that would require 12 artifacts. We only need to see 8 based on the program goals and outcomes. So select a program goal, review the curriculum map to see what classes meet that goal. If you've taken those classes, go into them, find the work that you've done, and in your reflection make the narrative connection. You link your artifact to your course, to the program goal. So you're making that narrative connection through your reflection in the ePortfolio. So you don't have to find an artifact from every class. We just need a minimum of 8 to satisfy the requirement. You're very welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Can we use more than one artifact from a single class? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you can make the connection, again, this is your reflective statement. You're justifying using that artifact as a demonstration of mastery of the program goal. So if you can make that argument with only artifacts from 127, do it. We don't have to see anything from any other classes. We know that you took the classes. Can we use artifacts from internships if the internship was a 4-credit internship? So your artifacts from internships are whatever project you worked on at the institution. Make sure that you get permission to use the artifact. If it's a proprietary document, it may be confidential. Your journal from your log from the internship, definitely any evaluations you have, any memos. I know internships end with a letter of reference from your site supervisor. Any work that's associated with a 1, 2, or 3-credit internship conducted under St. John's University is eligible for inclusion in the ePortfolio. Can we use artifacts from HIS classes? Oh, you dual degree kids are going to kill me. No, this is an LIS assessment. So if it's cross-listed, if it's HIS 905 and that reads as LIS 222, then use the LIS number on everything as a workaround. But you can supplement. So if you have an LIS assignment that you want to be your main artifact, but it links into work that you've done in your history course, yeah, you can mention that. But the primary artifact has to come from an LIS course. These are really good questions. All right, well, anyone else? There'll be more questions and I'll keep updating as we get. In regards to citation irregularities, are they checking for irregularities within the citations of the ePortfolio or within actual assignments? Some assignments I've done are in Chicago. So they're checking, like I said, they're not going to really go into the nitty gritty of the artifact because that artifact has already been assessed by a full-time by a faculty member, by an instructor. They're looking at citations within the ePortfolio itself. So as I said at the beginning, our overall citation style is APA. If you have an assignment that is done in Chicago, then that assignment has the Chicago citations in it. Your citation of the assignment should be an APA. That's it. Easy peasy. You're always citing yourself and you're always citing your instructors. So that should be an APA. If there are irregularities, that's what the faculty are referring to in that review that resulted in a failed ePortfolio. So they probably went, they probably had Chicago on one page or just the formatting. I mean, sometimes, you drop a colon or your semicolon at the wrong moment, at the wrong space, and it throws off the format. And that's really what style guides are about. It's that level of nitpickery. All right. Well, this was very informative. I learned a lot from myself, and I hope you did too. So I'm going to wrap this up. It's 4:30. Anybody that has any questions about the ePortfolio or anything else in their life can email them to me, and I will get back to you. As I started saying, our next webinar is going to be on March 12th. I don't have a speaker picked out for that yet. I did try to invite a librarian at sea, so I have to hear back from them. And then March 26th will be a prison librarian, so that's a lot of fun. Uh, and then that's it. So that's the end. I will post this to YouTube and see you all in a few weeks. Ciao.